So there's this great book, and I'm going to finish with this. It's called The Furious Longing of God. And it's just an awesome book, and it has some of these things that I've been talking about, but there's just this one story that caught me, and maybe it explains to us how we release the ministry of Jesus in real practical ways, right? So I'm just going to read a few pages and we'll finish today. Back in the late 60s, I was teaching at a university in Ohio, and there was a student on campus who by society's standards would have been called ugly. He was short, extremely obese, he had a terrible case of acne, a bad lisp, and his hair was growing like Lancelot's horse in 4 directions at one time. He wore the uniform of the day, a t-shirt that hadn't been washed since the Spanish-American War, jeans with a butterfly on the back, and of course, no shoes. All my days, I have never met anyone with such low esteem. He told me that when he looked in the mirror each morning, he spit at it. Of course, no campus girl would date him, no fraternity wanted him as a pledge. He walked into my office one day and said, his lisp evident, "Ah, you're a new face on campus. Well, my name is Larry Mullaney, and I'm an agnostic." "You're a what?" He repeated himself, and I said, "Wow, congratulations. If you ever become an atheist, I'll take you to dinner and we'll celebrate your conversion." This guy, Brennan Manning, he's the campus priest. Right? The short story I'm about to tell you is what Larry got for Christmas one year. Christmas came along for Larry Mullaney, and he found himself back with his parents in Providence, Rhode Island. Larry's father is a typical lace curtain Irishman. Now, there are lace curtain Irish and there are shanty Irish. A lace curtain Irishman, even on the hottest day in summer, will not come to the dining room table without wearing a suit, usually a dark pinstripe, starched white shirt, and a tie swollen at the top. He will never allow his sideburns to grow to the top of his ears, and he'll always speak in a low, subdued voice. Well, Larry comes to the dinner table that first night smelling like a billy goat. He and his father have the usual number of quarrels and reconciliations, and thus begins a typical vacation in the Mullaney household. Several nights later, Larry tells his father that he's got to go back to school the next day. "What time, son?" 6 o'clock. "Well, I'll ride the bus with you," his father said. The next morning, the father and son ride the bus in silence. They get off the bus as Larry has to catch a second one to get to the airport. Directly across the street are 6 men standing under an awning, all men who work in the same textile factory as Larry's father. They began making loud and degrading remarks like, "Oink, oink, oink, look at that fat pig. I tell you, if that pig was my kid, I'd hide him in the basement. I'd be so embarrassed." Another said, "I wouldn't. If that slob was my kid, he'd be out the door so fast he wouldn't know if he's on foot or on horseback. Hey, pig, give us your best oink." These brutal salvos continued. Larry Mullaney told me at that moment, for the first time in his life, his father reached out and embraced him, kissed him on the lips, and said, "Larry, if your mother and I lived to be 200 years old, that wouldn't be long enough to thank God for the gift he gave us in you. I am so proud that you're my son." It would be hard to describe in words the transformation that took place in Larry Mullaney, but I'll try. He came back to school and remained a hippie, but he cleaned up the best he could. Miracle of miracles, Larry began dating a girl, and to top it off, he became the president of one of the fraternities. By the way, he was the first student in the history of our university to graduate with a 4.2 grade point average. Larry Mullaney had a brilliant mind. Larry came to my office one day and said, "Tell me about this man, Jesus." And for the next 6 weeks, in half-hour increments, I shared with Larry what the Holy Spirit had revealed to me about Jesus. At the end of those 6 weeks, Larry said, "Okay." Larry Mullaney was ordained a priest in the diocese. Afterward, Larry Mullaney was ordained a priest in the Diocese of Providence, Rhode Island. And for the past 20 years, he's been a missionary in South America, a man totally sold out to Jesus Christ. Do you know why? It wasn't because of the 6 weeks of sitting in Brennan Manning's office while I talked about Jesus. No, it was because of a day long ago during a Christmas vacation, standing at a bus stop when his lace curtain Irish father healed him. Yes, his father healed him. His father had the guts to get out of the foxhole and choose the high road of blessing in the face of cursing and taunts. His father looked deeply into his son's eyes, saw the good in Larry Mullaney that Larry couldn't see for himself, affirmed him with a furious love, and changed the whole direction of his son's life. Let's all stand. Releasing the healing ministry. I just think that there's some sort of unique impartation the Lord wanted to do this morning. I read this story, and I don't think I stopped crying for a half hour because it's so close to who we are, what we should be doing. At the same time, you're loving other people, you're feeding your own soul. Because I think there's a lot of that that's necessary. Some of us feel barren, more barren than we have in a long time. I think this is a time to feel full because there's plenty of places to give love away. It's by that giving you feel it back in you. Some of us just desperately need actually to know how to love another person so we can be loved. We feel barren sometimes and weak and lost, and lonely. I believe today there's an opportunity to receive love and to be equipped to give it. If you'd like, you could come to the front or perhaps just pause in your seat for a minute. We'll just sing a couple of songs. Leave whenever you want. If you're not disturb other people, because I think I'm going to ask the Holy Spirit to come, and I think he's going to come for who wants it. If you just pause 5 minutes, I would even, you don't have to pause 30 minutes or 45 minutes or just a minute to get a moment's rest. So you come if you like.